Hey Care2, it's Heather coming to you once again on the day after the conclusion of the Republican Convention. We had a little conversation this morning. Catherine Morgan, our regular blogger, and I had a little chat using this technology called Uva, which we were hoping to post. I'm not actually sure that's going to work out, so I wanted to just give a quick take impressions and, of course, invite your feedback on this. First thing, I don't know if people saw the video. I think it was like that they showed right before they sort of brought McCain out, but it had very dramatic September 11th footage, including footage of the World Trade Center towers collapsing, which obviously evokes a lot of emotion and different emotions in a lot of people. To me, it was extraordinarily gratuitous and upsetting. But I'd be interested in what other people thought. Some of the commentators on CNN and whatnot thought it was entirely appropriate. Whether or not it was appropriate, it was gratuitous in my view, and I found it to be really over the top and unnecessary. The main event of the evening was Senator McCain formally accepting the Republican nomination and giving his speech. And there really were sort of two main parts of the speech. Again, we were talking about biography, and there was biography. There's been sort of an abundance of biography in this convention because they really tried to make it one of character and integrity. We've been talking about the themes in this convention: service, reform, prosperity, right? So these sort of big overarching themes as opposed to issues, right? And so that was definitely true of Senator McCain. But he talked a lot about not only his biography, and he went into pretty good detail about his time as a prisoner of war and his service in the military. But he also talked about the sort of overarching theme around a career in reform as a reformer, a career sort of trying to do what's in the public good regardless of the consequences. And so you saw that the theme that they've been talking about all week. You know, they keep telling the story in the context of Iraq. I'd rather lose an election than lose a war. And he uses that to sort of buttress and underscore his principle when he supported the surge back in January of 2007. And so you sort of saw him take that and create an entire rationale for his candidacy. And he also said, we've been talking about this all week, he also said change is coming. In fact, that was the headline on the Washington Post today where I live. And so you can see that the campaign has clearly decided to move away from experience. You see that not only in their rhetoric, but in their choice of Governor Palin, and obviously, arguably, they had no choice with that. But and so now they're like sort of trying to wrest the change mantle away from the Obama campaign through sort of this prism of reform and maverick, right, which is what they're trying to build up Governor Palin as. So I actually found the speech to be fairly flat personally, and I thought at times it sort of veered into almost into State of the Union turf. He sort of went on a litany of issues. He talked a lot about education, actually. He did talk some about economics, but he kept it fuzzy because I think most folks, what the polling's finding is that people trust the Democrats more after sort of Republican control and the economy not being in a good place under Republican control and President Bush, whose name was not even mentioned, by the way. And then he talked about energy reform. It's clearly an issue where the Republicans feel like they can sort of use that as a proxy for the economy, economic issues, and sort of like energy independence, energy innovation as a proxy for job growth and moving the economy forward in a futuristic sense. So that piece of it was good. But I felt like he didn't really do much to share with people what he would actually do in a specific concrete way. He had these 3 stories of people who have been hurt by the economy, which started out very movingly, and then I think he didn't do anything with it. How is the fact that he is thinking about them and is he fighting for them? In what way is he fighting for them? He said, I am fighting for this person, I am fighting for that person. He laid out these great stories and then didn't really talk about how he was doing that. And I think that lack of detail was striking, at least to me. So now that we're done with convention land, we are going to get back on the campaign trail, of course, although Governor Palin will be returning to Alaska for the next several days. Her son, as many of you may know, is being deployed to Iraq. And so, and she also hasn't had much time since she was selected as the vice presidential nominee to get her affairs in order and whatnot. So she's going back to Alaska for several days. Of course, that conveniently allows more time where she is not really speaking directly with the press, and the McCain campaign has continued to push on that, sort of the media unfair and using that as an excuse to not subject her to sort of standard interviews. The one other thing I want to follow up on what's going to happen with the protests in Minneapolis, St. Paul. You can see where the federal government's hand is involved here. $50 million was given to both cities to bolster security presence for this convention, and I certainly saw that in person in Denver, and we've seen it throughout the week in Minneapolis. Arrests continued on Thursday. I don't even have a final figure in terms of how many people have been arrested over the course of the Republican convention, but it's well into the several hundred. And there are still journalists who have been arrested over the course of the week, some who were detained and arrested while covering protests. Right? A great organization called Free Press actually put out a petition asking folks to sign it to get these charges dropped against journalists. It's just sort of appalling that the media has been detained for any reason on this, and on just really sort of crazy, trumped up charges of incitement and obstruction and all of these sorts of crazy things. So there's been a lot around that. We're going to continue to follow up on it because while there was also an amazing and somewhat disconcerting police presence in Denver, there were definitely arrests. It wasn't nearly as dramatic as what happened in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and with one exception that I'm familiar with, there were not journalists were not detained, and certainly not on the level that we saw there. That's it from Care2 HQ here in Washington, D.C. for this week. We hope you've enjoyed it. We hope you keep the comments coming. Less than 60 days out from this election now, if you can believe it. So we will continue to update you and hope you will continue to give us your feedback and thoughts. Have a great weekend.